We're on the record in JR 2023-185 in the matter of Marcos Varela, respondent. May I have appearances?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Cynthia Graves for the state. We also have Ms. Diana Garcia, our division chief, as well as our victim witness advocate, Christina Diaz, our law clerk, Kristen Gwynn, and our intern for juvenile court, as well as representatives of the victim's family. I believe we have Crystal Miller, Yvette Wilson, and I believe Stanley Wilson. Is that correct? No.
We have Yvette Wilson, Yvonne Wilson, Heather Catalano, and myself, and sitting beside me is my mother as well, Deidre Wilson.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your attendance.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. David Richter. I represent Marcos Varela. Marcos is present and in custody. Also present from his family is his grandmother, Teresa Gutierrez. And I'm unsure if his adult sister is also with her. I was under the impression she would be. And Helica Gutierrez.
All right, thank you. There's already been a first appearance, is that correct? Or no, is this the first appearance?
This is the first appearance, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Grave, would you like to inform the child of the child's rights, or do you want me to proceed?
Your Honor, if the court would like to do that, or I don't know if Mr. Richter has already done that.
All right. Well, let me first ask you, Marcos, if at this time you're under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or medication of any kind. Can you hear me?
No, he wasn't.
Do we have staff from the Youth Services Center? Can we turn his mic on? All right. I'll ask you again, Marcos, if at this time you're under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or medication of any kind.
No, sir.
All right. Do you understand the charges and possible penalties?
Yes, sir.
Have you reviewed those with your attorney?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that in the petition, count 1, you've been charged with first-degree murder, willful and deliberate? Count 2, unlawful carrying of a handgun by a person under the age of 19. And count 3, tampering with evidence. Have you reviewed those charges with your attorney?
Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, I can affirm to the court that I have reviewed those charges with Marcos. I also reviewed with him all of his rights under the Children's Code, as well as the possible penalties. So we would waive any kind of formal reading of the petition, and we would enter a denial.
All right, thank you. Marcos, I will inform you that you do have the right to have an attorney throughout this case, free of charge. And you have the right to remain silent. Stay in touch with your attorney regarding your defenses. And I'll ask you, Mr. Richter, if you have any requests of the court at this time.
So, Your Honor, nothing in terms of, obviously Marcos would very much like to be released, but he understands under the circumstances that that's not likely to happen at this time. Marcos, and we do want the court to be aware that, Marcos is a very young 13-year-old, having just turned slightly over a month ago. Marcos did turn himself in on these charges when he found out that the police were looking for him. He did turn himself in. That was somewhat from the advice of his family, his grandmother and his sister. And of course, we would also like the court to note that Marcos has not been in any sort of trouble in the past. He does not have any referrals to the department. Obviously, it's a tragic situation, but it is the first time Marcos has had contact with the juvenile justice system.
Do you have any specific request for release to any specific person?
So at this time, Marcos has lived most of his life with his grandmother. She is his legal guardian. That would be the only option for release at this time. We'll also look to develop some options, for the court down the road that might involve some treatment. Certainly Marcos is here because of a lot of trauma in his young life as well. And so, those things are not available at this time. And if those become available in the future, we would come to the court with those.
Well, I appreciate you saying that so that everyone can hear those things. What I can do is ask CCP, a community custody program, to interview him. I'm not going to make him CCP eligible at this time. This is a very serious situation. I'm very disturbed not only by the results of the allegation as to what Marcos has been involved in, but in general, I am very disturbed by the numerous shootings in this town. As I've said before, there are too many kids with too many guns, and it goes without saying that this is the most serious, disturbing case we can deal with, is young people with guns shooting each other or shooting innocent people that are not even involved in any kind of criminal activity. So I'm not going to entertain release at this time, but I will ask that the community custody program interview him, interview the family, make some recommendations, and then provide those to council so that if you do have a plan at some future time, you can address the court again. Mr. Skelton, do you have something to add?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Daniel Skelton, CCP Program Manager. I just wanted the court to be aware and all the parties involved. CCP program is not available to anyone charged with an open count of murder. Our program does not allow us to take CCP under those conditions.
All right. Well, I had a feeling that was going to be the position of CCP. So that closes that door, Mr. Richter. And if you have any other alternative, you can put that together and present it to the court for consideration. But because not only the charge is so serious and the results were so horrendous, I'm concerned about the fact that Marcos is alleged to have had a gun in his possession at the age he is and used it the way he did. So just remember that those are my concerns and that release is unlikely. So I will find that he is a danger to himself and the community. Failure to appear is not such an issue with me as to juveniles because their families live here. But the other issues are very important. There's no reason for me to think that the community would be safe with him being released at this time. Ms. Graves?
Your Honor, the state just wanted to note on the record that we do object to any release, and of course that it was our understanding CCP would not be an option. But we also wanted to note on the record that one of the potential co-offenders who was in the car with him also resides at the residence where he's resided. And again, the gun issue of how access came about to a weapon to a child 13 years of age. So we have very strong objections and concerns about any type of release.
Well, I understand that, and I assume that. And as you said, one of my primary concerns is the lack of supervision and the fact that a child his age has a gun in his possession, a loaded gun, and used it or is alleged to have used it. So that's my ruling. I will allow a statement if someone else, victim's advocate, wants to ask me to give time to someone to speak.
Sorry, Your Honor, this is Leslie Archibald, juvenile probation.
All right.
And I just wanted to also put on the record that the department is against and would ask that he be held. We would also like the courts to know that this morning, we received a case on Mr. Marcos from 2018. So we will be PIing this case as well.
All right. Well, I do, for the record, have a copy of the detention hearing form that was produced by probation. I have reviewed that and the facts that it contains. And I'm glad you spoke up. I didn't ask for your position, but I am glad that you mentioned that. And the report does request that he be held. Does Diaz have anyone that you want to present at this time?
Christina Diaz, victim advocate for the state. I would like to introduce Crystal Miller and ask her if she would like to make a statement.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is Crystal Miller. And my statement is I just want him to be held because as you said, I feel that he is a danger not just to himself, to our community at the same time. He took such a precious soul, and she was our sunshine in a human form. And she was such an inspiration to this whole world. And all she ever wanted to do was help troubled children. So I do feel that he's a danger, not just to himself, but to this community, and we do not want him released.
All right. Well, I will find that he's a substantial risk to the community and to himself. And the order will be that he be held at this time. Anything else from either Ms. Graves or Mr. Richter?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing from the child, thank you.
All right. Thank you. We'll be in recess.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.